So I just saw The Farewell, and it was pretty good. This is the second feature film from director Lulu Wang, and it got a very positive reception at Sundance. It is certainly one of the better films you could be seeing in theaters right now. Basically, the main character is a Chinese American played by Awkwafina, who travels to China after learning her grandmother is diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. However, her entire family insists that her grandmother should not know that she is diagnosed with terminal lung cancer. It's an interesting story with statements to be made on responsibility and cultural differences. It's a really good setup for a premise, and I enjoyed the ideas that were explored. It is very refreshing to see a film that clearly has something to say, although unfortunately it felt as though the film said everything it wanted to within the first 30 minutes, and for the rest of the movie the film essentially just repeats itself. I do kind of wish the film went further with its ideas. There are many ways in which this film could have been much more dramatic and impactful for me, but by the end of the film it felt as though they had only really just scratched the surface. Again, I really enjoyed what they did explore, but as a whole it feels like one of those movies that could have just been a short film. In terms of presentation, it's very well shot. There are plenty of wide shots that feel very mature. They're not just doing constant close shots of whichever character you're supposed to be paying attention to at any given moment in time. The music was well done and appropriately used. It was certainly well performed, although nothing that I could call outstanding. The characters, although not thoroughly explored, were well presented and clearly defined. They did a really great job at making the grandmother character lovable and endearing. We didn't learn a huge amount about these characters, but they felt very real and worked well for the story. Now, despite the majority of this film feeling very mature and professional, there were aspects sprinkled throughout that did not. There was a very unfitting and out-of-place sequence during a party that felt like it belonged in a different movie. There was some really fake piano playing. There was some embarrassingly fake opera singing. There was a scene that took place at a dinner table where the food items were revolving around in the center. And throughout this entire scene, the continuity errors were at a near parody level. It was genuinely so distracting, I thought I was watching Black Dynamite or something. The revolving would completely stop in the wide shot. The very unique looking plates of food would warp around to different parts of the table as they're talking to each other. I legitimately could not keep my eyes off of it because of how ridiculous it looked. If the scene was planned out more carefully, then this certainly could have been avoided. The way it was presented, it genuinely would have fit perfectly within a parody film. Now, although this film had a few issues like that were sprinkled throughout, it is certainly more well presented than the vast majority of films you could be seeing in theaters right now. The overall presentation of this film is good enough that I'll likely check out this director's next project. Again, I really loved the concept, but I wish that more was done with it. There are plenty of ways in which this story could have been told to be more impactful for me, but by the end of it, it felt like kind of a cop-out. Still, it's pretty obvious that this film is likely to connect with people much more than it did myself. It was definitely worth the watch, and it was a refreshing change of pace from your average movie. Check this one out if you want. I'll probably never see it again, but I still enjoyed it, and I'm giving this one a 6 out of 10. It's closer to a 7 than a 5. Thank you.